This is an extract from my science fantasy book, The Twisted Truth. It comes from a section I haven't edited yet, but it's a chapter I enjoyed writing. The trees pressed in around the 11, the leaves overhead hiding the slowly fading sun. The breeze had stopped. Suddenly the path ahead was lit up as lightning flashed overhead. A few seconds later, a loud rumble filled the area. The 11 moved towards each other, looking afraid. Another flash and rumble followed. A single howl sounded, and after a few seconds half a dozen replied from around them. The howls were unfamiliar. They were not the typical howls of a wolf pack. They looked around, trying to spot movement. None could be seen. The thick tree trunks hid everything except for the path. Something howled on their left, and a twig snapped. Tanabe and Yuma drew their swords and tried to follow it. Only a few steps away from the path, it was too dark to see. They rejoined the others. "Let's get out of the wood," Ruskin whispered, his voice faltering. "No," Dylan ordered. "We are safer in here." But Ruskin was cut off as another flash lit the path. It was closely followed by the series of rumble and howls. The horses were starting to get scared, and the sound of their neighing added to the confusion. "Then let's get out of this wood," Ronnie urged. Everyone agreed, and they started to follow the path again, holding tightly onto the horses' reins. The howls sounded again around them. They were moving with them. Lightning flashed again, and a blur of movement could be seen behind the trees, and then stopped as the 11 turned in its direction. Thunder rumbled again, and the wood fell silent. They carried on walking, ignoring the sound their feet made as they brushed past the plants. Lightning flashed again, and the path ahead was blocked. Ruskin went forward to find out what it was. He ran his fingers along the rough surface. It was a fallen tree. "We need to go around," he gulped. The others came to his side. Each lay one hand on the tree and the other on their sword. They started to follow it into the trees. A few steps in and they paused. They could hear light footfalls amongst the branches. Lightning flashed again, followed by another howl. This time it was next to them, but this time, as the lightning had flashed, they had caught sight of the creature. The horses started to pull on their reins, and Dylan felt Trin trying to hide within his clothes. The 11 backed onto the path. It moved silently towards them. It was shaped like a wolf, and for a moment the 11 thought it was. Lightning flashed again, and they saw its true size. It was 3 times the size of a wolf. Slowly it started to unfold its wings that had been hidden on its back. It reached past the nearest trees, but its wings were barely open. They continued to open, reaching towards the further trees. As lightning flashed again, the 11 could see the shadow caused by its wings reaching past 4 trees. Dylan looked up into its face just as it howled again. His eyes met the creature and he gasped. The horses pulled harder on the reins, trying to pull the 11 backwards. Reed started to rear, pulling the reins out of Ruskin's hand. Tanabe grabbed hold of Reed's reins and helped Ruskin steady the horse, but all the horses were starting to rear. The creature slowly folded its wings. They moved silently past the trees and were placed carefully out of sight on its back. It stepped towards them. Roniel drew her sword and the others followed. The creature let out a howl and others echoed it in response. They all sounded close. As the first stepped silently out of the trees, they could see the full size of it. Its wings were folded on its long back, the tips reaching to the tail. It looked down on everyone and howled. The horses reared and were pulling the 11 backwards. Dylan was the first to turn and run. As they made their way back along the path, a quiet voice sounded. Like the howls, it echoed around them. "The wood is dark and quiet. The trees press in around us. The path is becoming hidden. Where is the other side?" The lightning flashes and the thunder rumbles. A howl carries on the breeze. The howls draw closer, echoing on all sides. We're surrounded, but cannot see them. Lightning flashes again. We see the creature towering above. Wings stretch past the trees. It howls again and our horses are pulling. Swords are useless and we begin to run. Howls echo on all sides. Oh, where is the other side? The singing became stronger. Fear could be heard in the wavering voice. Only Ruskin knew who had sung it. A shadow moved across the path ahead, blocking out the light. Darkness fell around them and a howl sounded from ahead. The path was blocked. The 11 stopped, wondering which way to go. Twigs snapped as the creature walked slowly towards them. They braced themselves. Dylan glanced at the others. He signalled to the twins and to Nabe to go left and approach the creature from behind. They crept into the trees. Dylan and the others turned towards the creature. It paced along the path, its wings still folded. Yumma took a deep breath. Her eyes met the creature's. It attacked. It surged forward, baring its teeth. Raniel took a small step back and blocked a strike with her sword. Dylan lunged forward. He caught the creature's leg with his sword, and blood began to trickle down its leg. The creature opened its wings, catching Dylan by surprise. He landed in a heap at the base of a nearby tree. A rustle sounded behind the creature. It paused, almost as if thinking, and Ruskin ran forward. It turned to look at him, black eyes and blinking. Its front legs arched over Ruskin's head. He jumped between them and thrust his sword upwards. The creature howled as it pierced its stomach. The twins were emerging from the trees. Semseru Te'et floated down from above. The voice was powerful but sounded distant. Ruskin watched as the wound he had created began to heal. The blood around it began to dry, and the skin and fur started to grow back. The twins lunged forward together. Their blades cut down the creature's flank. The creature turned, ignoring the pain. It took a pace towards the twins. Guinea took a step back. There was a tree behind him. A howl sounded from the creature again, but this time the sound of agony could be heard in it. Raniel's arrow could barely be seen, showing from its ribs. Semseru Te'et came more forcefully than before. The arrow wound began to heal, but the arrow was still in the creature's side. Rustles sounded all around them. The 11 paused. They could see movement through the trees. "There is more of them," Yumma muttered, dismay in her voice. "Witness Al Roylud," another distant voice sounded. It sounded familiar. Tanabe came swiftly out of the trees. He charged towards the creature. As he got close, he spun, avoiding its head. His sword landed heavily across its shoulder. It let out a yelp as its bone cracked. Then suddenly it howled again. Lightning flashed above, and Raniel looked up just as thunder filled the area with a low rumble. Through the noise a voice drifted down. "Get out of here." It was Aleko. Dylan glanced around and pointed in the direction he hoped the exit was in. Guido nodded. The distant voices continued mixing into the thunder. Branches blocked the path of the 11 as they ran, but they just moved around them. The creature howled again, and Raniel glanced over her shoulder. Its wings were outstretched, its head high, and an ear-piercing howl came from its mouth. Lightning surrounded its body.